CinemaJaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to CinemaJaw Retro Reviews, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the Movie Guy, and sitting alongside us is Filmy and Phil.
How you guys doing tonight?
Good.
This week on CinemaJaw, Matt, as you mentioned, it's a retro review, and we are looking back at Inside Man.
I'm excited to do this one. This was a blind spot for me. Spike Lee with an all-star cast. How did I miss this thing, Ryan? Glad to catch up with it.
We've been doing these retro reviews periodically, and the last one we did, The Book of Eli, ended up having Denzel Washington in it with Gary Oldman. And you had made a comment. It was refreshing to have just celebrated Gary Oldman. Then we celebrated Denzel Washington, and then we fit them into a retro review.
It was like a bridge. I liked that.
Like a bridge. And so we looked again this month. February, we're celebrating Jodi Foster. Last month, Denzel Washington. They've made one movie together, and we're doing a retro review of it. Inside Man. Love it.
Brilliant, Ryan. How long can this luck hold out? Because now we have to connect Jodi Foster to whomever we choose to celebrate next month.
Still in discussion, too, who we're celebrating in March.
Well, now, see, that sort of adds an extra dimension of our choice making, you know? I like it. It's fun.
And Matt, in addition to us reviewing Inside Man, Phil has been doing his research. He's got Phil's facts on Inside Man.
Sweet.
We do. It's like I went to school again. I really pulled out all the stops this week.
Can't wait to hear those.
You're an ace reporter, Phil. You're you missed your calling as a investigative journalist.
Truly, this is me taking it even a step higher. I am like an FBI director now.
I heard
movie facts.
Both Denzel and Jodi had to take restraining orders out on you for your research.
Yes, but those were prior to this. Oh, okay. Different story.
Yeah.
Well, let's get this review rolling.
When you hear Denzel Washington, Jodi Foster, Clive Owen, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Willem Dafoe, and Christopher Plummer in a Spike Lee joint, that has got to pique one's interest. Well, that is the exact team behind Inside Man. Perhaps one of the lesser celebrated Spike Lee directed films, but why? Is this crime noir, a bank worth robbing, or do we case the joint and decide the vault was empty? Find out after this clip.
My name is Dalton Russell. Pay strict attention to what I say because I choose my words carefully and I never repeat myself. Recently, I planned and set in motion events to execute the perfect bank robbery.
Everybody get down on the floor now!
Why? Because I can.
Inside Man opens up with a bank robber played by Clive Owen speaking directly to the camera, seemingly from prison, but as his monologue suggests, all is not as it seems. He tells us that his crime was planned perfectly, a motif that reoccurs throughout the movie. We soon enter a swank downtown Manhattan bank in the aughts, and the perfectly planned crime begins to transpire. Enter Denzel Washington, a detective whose career seems to be teetering between success and ruin. He and his partner, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, and the tactical commander, Willem Dafoe, are deployed to the crime scene, which has turned into a tense hostage situation. With the addition of Christopher Plummer and Jodi Foster, yet another layer of story piles on, and I'm not 100% sure all of it works, but just enough does, Ryan. Lee seems to be going for more of a crime noir, hard-boiled detective, lacy dames, and femme fatale sort of feeling, more so than a caper movie. Though it references both Serpico and Dog Day Afternoon by name, I think it's more like a Chinatown than a Heat, if you will. It meanders, it delves, it revels in its nuanced characters, while a few times I felt a little jerked around by this, especially when he once again delves into this animated obsession with violent video games, the overall effect was successful enough. If you haven't seen Inside Man and you're a fan of this cast, and especially Spike Lee, it is more than worth a spin. Rye, what did you think of it?
Yeah, it's interesting. This wasn't my first time round with Inside Man. This was my second viewing. And the second time watching, I did feel the plot or the planned heist here was very easy to see coming. For some reason, I remember back in 2006 watching this movie, I remember being a little bit more shocked with the reveal than I probably should have been. I love the energy of the film. You mentioned how it opens up with what I like to call is creepy Clive Owen addressing the camera, and then bang, we're right into the heist. I absolutely loved it. Also in your review, I heard you were a little hesitant on the subplot about Christopher Plummer and his character, what he's hiding, and him even hiring Jodi Foster as a fixer. I do think that's the weakest link in the movie. However, I think you're right on when you were talking about it being a complete mixture of genres and little things from film noirs, from heist films, from bank robberies. Spike Lee gels all those together and sort of makes it his own little creation here. This is not the normal, like what you would call a Spike Lee joint, but this is definitely got Spike Lee's fingerprints all over it.
Well, it does say a Spike Lee joint right at the beginning. So it is technically.
Yeah, I was saying that in regards to, like a really hardcore Spike Lee film. I know
agree.
when we talked about Clockers, we talked about it being a very much, a Spike Lee film, and, you Do the Right Thing. And there's those movies, even The Five Bloods that we reviewed last year, and both were high on. Those feel
Black
like
Klansman, sure.
Right. Very much a Spike Lee film, in it's his voice coming through so loud and clear. It does come through in Inside Man, but this is also a big studio film at the same time. And I'm sure we'll get to that when we start breaking down the film, but this is one of Spike Lee's bigger films as far as, production value and so forth.
Yeah, I agree with the general thrust of what you're saying. Is that he doesn't seem like the auteur here, and he's not. He didn't write the screenplay, and I think that shines through. But there are those Spike Lee touches, and I want to get into the nitty gritty on a few of them, maybe in a couple of minutes. But going back to what you said, kicking this little segment off, which is the Christopher Plummer, Jodi Foster element to the movie. Here's an opportunity for Spike Lee to get into some of the, he typically talks about in a lot of his films American racism, and of course that's an element in this, but here we had sort of this international racism, perhaps like the very roots of modern racism with this Nazi plot going on. And yeah, it's weak at best. I wanted to love it more. Of course, Jodi Foster and Christopher Plummer are both fantastic, but that element I don't think adds much to this film. I guess it's kind of what the motivation behind the crime was, maybe. I don't know.
I've thought about this, especially after watching the movie. In a lot of ways, it sets up the idea of how they would be able to get away with what they stole, because they're stealing this from a safe deposit box, and they're not just necessarily stealing money out of a vault, right? So that plays into the plot there. But the timing of watching this, we're celebrating Jodi Foster this month, so she's been like high on our list, and I've actually watched a few Jodi Fosters this month. And then, we just lost Christopher Plummer, who passed away just recently. And when I saw that he was in this, I had sort of forgot. I thought, wow, this is great. I get to see Christopher Plummer and Jodi Foster. They're working together, because then it rekindled, like I was like, okay, I remember now. They're working together. And watching it, it's the weakest part of the movie is that whole entire plot line. I don't know if they utilized either of those actors enough. I mean, they're both absolutely fantastic actors that command the screen, and they're just side characters in this larger plot.
And that's okay. I think they have some fun interactions. It's not so much their screen time that bothered me, because when they are on the screen, I felt engaged just by their performances, as much as the idea behind why they're involved, which was kind of weak, man. Like, are we just going to get into this right now, or should we? Okay. So he's got this safety deposit box in his bank, which is not numbered, right? It has a number, but that number never appears on the ledger. So this is how the bank robbers are able to get away with the crime, because they didn't steal anything that was written down. And inside this safety deposit box, he not only has some sort of contract, like paperwork from the Nazis that were the catalyst to his success. He has since spent his life trying to repay that debt by doing philanthropical things and helping people, but it's his shame of this deal that he keeps hidden in this box. Why he would save something like that, I have no idea. And the other thing is a whole bunch of diamonds that were stolen in World War II by the Nazis from Jews. Okay, that seems like a good setup for a heist, but again, it comes back down to this shame that he's trying to hide with these papers. Why would he save that? It's kind of weak. The reveal was dumb. They didn't paint him enough as a monster. I wanted to hate him, but at the same time, I couldn't, even though he was like clearly a terrible person. I don't know. Was he equivocating there? Was Spike Lee equivocating? Was the screenwriter equivocating? I'm not sure. And Jodi Foster is this fixer, kind of dumb.
Well, I don't know if I ever got a good read on her character. She comes off as this super sassy, overly confident character that as soon as she comes on screen is one of these that seems to like know more than anybody else in the room. But does she really? No, she barely knows anything. I don't even know if she's told exactly what the contents
she wasn't
inside there are. So she comes off with this just overly confident feel that I don't know if I necessarily bought. And I hated that whole part of it. And I like Jodi Foster so much, but I just whole time kept thinking like, who would buy any of this? She's not a fixer. Not the way. The best fixer I ever saw was George Clooney in Michael Clayton. That's a fixer. This came off as just someone that's.
What about Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction?
Another great fixer. But Foster plays it where what she's going to do is just play it so overly confident that hopefully that confidence overshadows everything else and people think she knows what's going on when clearly she doesn't.
Yeah. She's a great actress. I just don't think her character was very good in this film, unfortunately.
I agree. Now, I like the way Spike Lee set this movie up, and I sort of forgot the structure of the film. Did you watch this on Peacock by chance?
I did. Unfortunately, with ads.
Yeah, so Peacock has some ads in there, and actually coming back from one of the ads, you go in. The film has this sort of jarring moment where, okay, all along it's been sort of a linear story where they're showing the heist, and then all of a sudden they're cut to a scene, and Denzel Washington and Chiwetel Ejiofor are interrogating the people who were in the bank. And because the plan here by the robbers was that they were going to come in as painters. So they come in like they got those jumpsuits and masks that look like painters. And then once the heist is started and all these customers in the bank, they brought in painting outfits for them to put on. So they're all dressed the same. So that's how they're going to get out of the bank, is they're literally going to walk out the front door with the customers. And the idea here is that no one's going to know who was the actual robbers and who was a customer in the bank. Brilliant idea. I mean, fun idea. Well, when they go to that interrogation, it's only about maybe 30 minutes into the movie. It's sort of jarring, isn't it? All of a sudden they're cut to a scene where they're interrogating people in the bank.
Yes. The first time they cut to it, I found it jarring. By the third, fourth, fifth time, because they keep going back to this, I wasn't as taken out because I was expecting it all the subsequent times. And I actually really started to like it. And this is where it sort of shines as a hard-boiled detective story. You know, you got two cops sitting there playing good cop, bad cop with someone who may or may not be innocent across the table from them. And they're doing the, the verbal sparring with that person. And I enjoyed it. They they kind of like blow out the shot and like oversaturate it so it really looks dank and blue, and it was cool. I really enjoyed those moments quite a bit, and it was also kind of a chance for us to get to know some of the characters in the bank a little better, which was fun. And of course, at one point or another, perhaps one of the robbers is sitting in that seat, and we're in on a little something that the other characters aren't, which was also fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed those scenes.
So I would ask you, how do you rate the planning of the heist? This idea that they were going to go in as painters, get everybody else in the same outfits. Did you like this idea of the heist?
Well, okay, look, this is a movie heist, okay? I mean,
so you don't think this could fly is what you're saying. You don't think this could fly in real life?
No, not at all.
I would hope not.
Yeah. I mean, dude, come on. First of all, that's right on the nose. Second of all, he gets away with it by digging a hole in a storeroom and hiding in there for a week. All right, that's a great idea. Hey, spoiler alert, by the way. That's a great idea and everything. But they would have dogs in there sniffing for explosives and everything else. That would never, ever work. So did I like the idea of the heist? I would have liked it better if they didn't keep making a point of saying how brilliantly planned it was. Just let it be a plan. You don't have to point to how brilliant it is. I mean, is this the writer trying to like fluff up his script and how good of a writer he is?
I thought it was because Clive Owen delivers the word brilliant so wonderfully. He says it's a brilliant plan. He loves talking about the plan.
Yeah.
But the idea of actually dressing up everybody in the same outfit, and then what they did was they would rotate them into different rooms.
That was
so that nobody knew exactly who was, and sometimes they would even take one of the robbers and put them as a hostage.
Right. Smart. I like
Very
that.
smart. I thought that was pretty ingenious, actually.
Yeah. Here's another reveal, as long as we're talking about spoilers here. What did you think of the fact that the robbers turn out to be pacifists?
That's about it.
Do you think it gives them the moral victory here? Because
no,
they say they did it for the money, but at the same time, they really uncovered some real wrongs that had gone left undetected.
Yeah, but because they were actually, I think the real motivation here is the money.
Yeah.
So that they did uncover the wrongs and find out that this guy, was,
he was a war profiteer.
Right. Was a war profiteer. Good way to say it. I mean, they didn't play up that angle enough for me to say that was something that I would have highlighted. To me, they were still doing it for the money, bottom line.
Here's a few things that I really, really enjoyed. They keep going to Denzel Washington's girlfriend. And this becomes a point between him and the main robber, who's Clive Owen's character, who's exceptionally sweet. He's actually like a really nice person for the most part when he's not beating somebody down, which was the one act of violence in the film. But what's cool about how they keep going to this girlfriend character is she's sitting there the whole time in a nightie, like a silk number, like totally out of a classic film noir. That's what I meant when I said lacy dames. I mean, she's talking to him on the phone and she's just fawning and breathless, like, when you coming home, baby? I loved that. I was just eating my popcorn, like, give me more of that, because that's something we don't get to see enough. And I think that was when Spike Lee was being most playful with genre, and he also has like Denzel in a jaunty cap, like an old school fedora. It just sort of oozed that masculinity, that old school detective story that I really liked quite a bit. That was fun.
That was fun. The music in the movie actually is quite fun as well. Spike usually puts some pretty good music in there.
He does.
But you mentioned the video game.
Yeah.
What's
up with that?
He did that in Clockers also.
He did. I think Spike Lee's got something against Grand Theft Auto, or he's trying to tell us something about it. He makes a point. Now, this is two of his films, and I don't know if it's in more. If Jawheads, if you know of this being in any other Spike Lee films, please let me know. Kids playing with a PSP, which firmly roots this film in the aughts. And at one point, one of the robbers says, "Let me see your game." And they not only like talk about the game, they actually like cut to full screen footage of a fake video game where, it's Grand Theft Auto, basically. It's like a crime video game, very, very graphic. He also did this in Clockers, as you mentioned, Rye.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a subtext? What's he trying to say? It was jarring. It was distracting. It didn't lead anywhere. Was he trying to say that this young man is being led astray? His dad seemed like a good dad. And, I don't understand what that was all about.
I agree. I think it's Spike Lee trying to get another message across that's a little bit of a tangent of a message, but it's going back to this like violence in the video games, the violence that's being sold to us. He did it in Clockers, and I think he's just going for it again here.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
So
I just don't buy that one.
Nitpicks. I got a couple of them for you. Number one, was this not the busiest bank you've ever seen in your life?
No, that's a weird nitpick. It's a downtown Manhattan bank.
Oh my God. Who
There's
goes
like 30
to the
people
bank?
in there.
When was the last time you were in the bank?
Just the bank or a bank in downtown Manhattan?
Yes. What does it matter?
It matters.
No. All right.
Also, that this was 2006. There's a lot of context here that we're not putting in.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this was pre-COVID when you could go to a bank at all.
Online banking wasn't as mature.
Yeah, this was pre-Amazon, so you had to go out to the store and actually buy things.
Not pre-Amazon. As a matter of fact, they allude to Amazon in the film.
I had no idea you guys were so pro-bank, but let me tell you, this bank was juiced. This is a nitpick. It was very crowded. I mean, they go in there. There's like a line at every there's people like signing checks. They do a quick scan of like the room. There's people getting loans. There's like holy crap, this is the busiest bank I've ever seen.
Disagree with this nitpick, man, because I remember going into banks in the 90s and the early aughts, and I would go up to one of those tables and fill out the form. Nothing was done on your phone. We didn't have apps for that.
The ATMs weren't in the lobby yet. There was like one in the drive-through if you were lucky, and it only gave out 20s.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, that was one nitpick. Now this one you have to agree with me on.
All right.
At the end of the film, there's a scene where three of Clive Owen's, let's call them henchmen or, people who are robbing the bank with them, are in the car together.
Crew. I believe they call it a crew, right?
Okay. And the crew are in the car together to sort of pick him up and end this robbery.
And we see who the mastermind actually was.
Would they all get in the car together? Isn't that an absolute dead giveaway? Like, what was the time frame? Was it
About a week? They said, yeah.
A week? Okay. It's still a complete gamble if to go back to the bank and have three people that were in the bank at the same time now be in a car picking somebody up at the bank. Why would they take that risk? It was just stupid.
I agree completely with this nitpick. Also, whenever a bank gets robbed, where are the feds? Where's the FBI? Especially if they don't know. Okay, so nothing turned up stolen, and the cop said, "Bury it. Let's just forget this whole thing ever happened." I say bullshit. The FBI would have been trailing each and every one of these people. You don't just take 30 hostages in a downtown bank and the cops just bury it. That doesn't happen. No way. The feds would have been all over him. I agree, Ryan. BS.
Okay. At least you agree with that nitpick. You're pro bank, but you agree with that one. Any nitpicks out from you?
No, not too much. I mean, I think there's a lot of cool things Spike Lee gets across in this film. I don't have a lot of nitpicks. If I had to choose one, I would say that Willem Dafoe is criminally underused. Why was he even in this movie?
I got information on that. So
okay.
Let's put a pin in that.
Nice.
Let's just say that did come up.
All right. Well, since you brought up Willem Dafoe, why don't we get to our actor breakdowns? How's that sound, Matt?
That sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Got a page here that I got notes down.
I got to go to the bank real quick, Ryan. I might be a few minutes.
All right. We start off with the big name, the star here, Denzel Washington. Give him a grade. I gave him a B- here.
That's a damn good grade.
B-.
Yeah.
And I wrote down a little different than the normal Denzel. He never comes across as the guy who's going to save the day, like Denzel Washington, action Denzel Washington. He's a little bit more passive here.
This is a genre piece, a little bit all over the place. He's the main character, so he's got a lot to do. I agree with a B-. That's probably where it lands. This isn't top tier, but Denzel's always solid. So, yeah.
You agree then?
I agree.
Clive Owen. I gave him an A.
You give Clive an A, huh?
An A. And I wrote a note here that you don't actually see his face a ton. Yes, he addresses the camera a couple of times, but the bulk of this movie, when he's in the bank, he's wearing a mask and sunglasses, and it's his voice that is just menacing. He just has, I love bad guy Clive Owen. He should play a villain way more often. And this was his best. 06. He had this and Children of Men in the same year. This is Clive Owen's best.
Yeah.
I give him an A.
Giving him an A, huh? I mean, I do love that voice. It takes me straight back. If I close my eyes, I can see Sin City rolling through my head, which I saw 3 times in the theater. And I would say that's probably my favorite Clive Owen movie. I'm not saying it's his best. I would say this is probably a B+ performance from Clive Owen.
B+ for Clive. Jodi Foster. I went C+. C+. And
I think you're being generous, honestly.
And I wrote misused. It's not so much that it's Foster's fault. I think she probably did about as much as she can do with the role. But I had no read on the character. Came across too confident.
I agree. It's a C performance. Not because, again, I agree, not her fault per se. She did what she could with that script, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. As an actor, you really can't say this character's all wrong. If you agree to play the part, you play the part. So I'm sure she did what she could with it. C.
On to Christopher Plummer, the late, great Christopher Plummer. I gave him a B+.
Yeah.
Note here, perfect for the role. Just wanted more of him. I could have used more and more backstory on Christopher Plummer.
Certainly could have used some more backstory, but man, oh man, when Christopher Plummer looks into the camera or even just another actor's eyes, he's got this twinkle, like this was what, 2006, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So a number of years ago. But even then, Christopher Plummer is, pretty advanced in age, and damn it, if he just doesn't still have that spark of life in his eyes. He just looks like so animated and alive. And yeah, I love him a lot. He's great.
Absolutely. B+ for me as well. Finally, Willem Dafoe. As you mentioned, and this gets us there, not used enough. Minor role, but still fun, Willem Dafoe. I think he's one of those guys, as soon as he pops up in a movie, I'm just happy that he's in the film, no matter what. It's a Willem Dafoe performance. I'm grateful for it. I gave him a solid B on this one.
Yeah, I'd give him a B. It's criminally underused is what I said. He just doesn't get enough. Willem Dafoe can really change a movie. But then again, I mean, was Willem Dafoe then what he is today in 2006?
Yeah, I think we're talking about the same level Willem Dafoe by 2006. I think he was superstar already.
We had really yet to see Chiwetel Ejiofor break out in a big way. In fact, this could be a key moment in his career.
Yeah. What do you give Chiwetel Ejiofor?
Great. I mean,
yeah.
I thought he was really fantastic. It's such an easy character to let fade into the background, playing against Denzel Washington, being the detective partner. He could have just kind of been a sounding board, but Chiwetel Ejiofor actually gets some punches in, man, especially in those interrogation scenes. Like just a few looks, a few like emotions on his face where, it's really sink your teeth into. I'd give him a B+.
Yeah, I gave him a solid B. And I agree with you. I thought him and Denzel, they could make another movie together in that same type of relationship, Yeah. A good two detective, 1-2 punch. I'd go see that any day of the week.
They had chemistry. Agree.
They sure did. All right. So then what I wrote down is top tier, middle tier, lower tier. Okay. For their careers. going down the line here. You put him in one of the tiers, top, middle, or lower. We start with Spike Lee. Where does this fit for Spike Lee?
Solid in the middle of the pack. Maybe upper middle, but it's middle.
That's exactly what I wrote down. Middle tier, upper middle is what I wrote down. That's where I'd put it. How about for Denzel?
Denzel's had some really big movies, and this ain't one of them. It's definitely lower middle to upper lower. I'm going to say lower tier Denzel.
I still put this in middle tier Denzel. He does have some stinkers that are definitely in that lower tier. I have a lot of fun here. It's definitely not top tier Denzel, but I put this right in the middle of the road for Denzel's filmography.
Okay.
Clive Owen. This is top tier Clive Owen.
Really? I don't know about that.
100%. This is top tier Clive Owen.
I mean, really, Clive Owen, you're going top tier Clive? I mean, he's a pivotal character. I'd say upper middle for Clive. Upper middle.
Jodi Foster.
Bottom of the barrel for Jodi. Hate to say it.
I'm with you.
Would have been a better movie without her.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Jeez, that's a little harsh. But I would
selling point.
I would put this for Jodi Foster. When you're looking at her filmography, this is lower tier for Jodi Foster.
Yeah.
Just not enough. Christopher Plummer.
Lower for Christopher Plummer too. I mean, come on, this guy did some amazing movies in his long career.
I got this middle tier Christopher Plummer, but it's just too small of a role. Probably lower end of that middle tier. Willem Dafoe.
Generous.
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. When you think of Dafoe, you think of like Antichrist. You think of Spider-Man. You think of even like Florida Project. This is lower tier Willem Dafoe.
I'm with you. I agree. Lower tier, because I think most people, we just watch this movie, but I guarantee you in about 5 years, somebody will say Willem Dafoe. Maybe I'll ask you a trivia question. Willem Dafoe and Denzel Washington in a movie. You'll never come up with this. You'll forget that he was in it.
Maybe.
It's such a small role. And Chiwetel Ejiofor?
Like I said, I think this may have been quite a linchpin in his career, quite a pivotal role for him. So I'd put this at upper tier Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Yeah, I'm middle tier with Chiwetel. I like it a lot. How about for bank robbery movies? What tier of a bank robbery movie is this? Top tier, middle tier, lower tier?
It's an interesting robbery. Yeah, I would say this is like a middle tier bank movie, a bank heist movie. It plays with those elements enough, even though I don't think that's the main thrust of this movie.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on it. I'd go like top tier, but on the lower end of the top tier. But I think it would be very notable for me if I was talking about strictly bank robbing movies. I would mention this film.
It's no Dog Day Afternoon. You know what I mean?
Which I just watched.
It's a great movie.
Now, as we mentioned at the top, Phil, hard at work, because these retro reviews, we can do a little research on the films. And Phil said, hey, I'll do all the research you guys want. So we just told him, go at it, buddy. Go at it. Let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up!
No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I did a pretty deep dive. Some stuff, it's fascinating to me how much some stuff kind of cycles into the zeitgeist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was not necessarily indirectly answered by you guys, but like Willem Dafoe came up both in your research, or in my research, and in your discussion. So our first one, this is just some kind of statisticky stuff. The Inside Man was released in the United States on March 24th, 2006. It had a $45 million budget and earned $184 million worldwide.
That's
Really good. Hell yeah.
Yeah, over 4 times its initial value. To this day, it is Spike Lee's highest grossing film of his entire career, which makes sense, I think, but is just feels wrong to me for some reason.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That is interesting. I totally know what you're saying there, Phil. He has much more important movies, right?
Yes.
So for this to be at the box office, the one that is the one that has made him the most money as far as highest grossing does seem a little wrong. You know.
Right. Like, truly it makes me wonder if art ever was alive. It did. It not only was it his most monetarily successful, but it was also just like well regarded. It's the most seen. So the film opened number one. The other top films that week that came out, number two was V for Vendetta. That this did better than V for Vendetta is also. I feel like that is, yeah. Again, like
Of the two, which do you remember more? And I would have
Yeah.
to say V. Yeah.
Stay Alive was number three. Failure to Launch was number four, which, to be honest, I remember more than Inside Man.
Well, that's a Matthew McConaughey. That was when he was shirtless wonder, Matthew McConaughey.
Sure was. Romantic comedy Matthew McConaughey.
And number five was Shaggy Dog, which I think we all remember Tim Allen's finest.
Oh, that's who's in it?
Yeah.
Shaggy Dog.
It's a Tim Allen movie.
I
He
have
turns
not
into a
seen-
shaggy dog.
Does he really?
Yeah,
Oh my
we gotta
God.
stop. Tim Allen should never be in a. Tim Allen shouldn't be in many places, but the suburbs are definitely one of them. He's turning into Santa Claus. He's turning into dogs. He's turning into everything he's not supposed to be when we let this guy out.
Wow, that is funny.
That's where he started his career, though, on television and doing a suburban sitcom, you know?
He started his career selling drugs. Fun fact.
Well, okay, Hollywood career, let's say.
There you go.
Clarification.
Screenwriter Russell Gurwitz spent about 5 years developing the premise for this film, which is also maybe why he was so self-congratulatory with the plan.
Even the stupid van that they steal says perfectly planned painting. Like, really, stop congratulating yourself, dude.
You know what, though? I can't think of many things that I have worked on for 5 years like that. So I'll give him credit in that regard. Maybe a little bit heavy-handed, but still.
Well, maybe he's just a procrastinator, Phil. You know, maybe this guy,
That
you know,
too.
he could have finished it in a year, but he just really took his time. Like, I'm working on it, you know?
That is true, too. I guess
Lazy.
I'm giving him too much credit.
Yep.
After he did complete the script in 2002, Imagine Entertainment did purchase it, but there's still a 4-year gap in between the 5 years it took him to write it and then when it actually came out. That's because they had originally had Ron Howard attached to it, which makes sense. It's
Jeez.
Imagine.
Sure.
Then Ron Howard stepped down. I could not find out quite why, but his partner Brian Grazer began looking for a new director for the project, and that's where they ultimately end up with Spike Lee. What I do love about this is that I could not find information on... That is such a dramatic change to go from... Right, could you imagine if
I'd
Solo
say
was directed
so.
by Spike Lee?
Right.
That'd be badass.
That would be fun. But
would
I
be-
totally
yeah.
agree. I mean, Ron Howard would have made it very much just a bank robbery movie, right? I think the whole element that we liked was this mashup of these different genres, the feel of that had. And I think that's all Spike. That's 100% Spike.
I agree.
So it's a very polarizing movie. It's a good movie to do research on because there's a lot of stuff here. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds certified fresh, which it doesn't seem like you guys are quite on board with. It has an 86% rating based on 204 reviews. So
That's high. That's good.
that's a
seems
B.
a
That's
little
a
high.
solid B.
It sure
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Empire Magazine gave the film 4 out of 5 stars. Hold on one second. I'm so sorry. This dog is so needy. Get out of here, buddy. Sorry.
It's okay. Needy dog. Looked like a cute dog. Was that, wasn't a Yorkie. What was that? A Jack Russell?
It's either a Jack Russell or maybe a Doberman.
Yeah, those two are really hard to tell apart.
I don't know my breeds.
Sorry.
Is that a Jack Russell? What kind of dog is he?
I don't know what the hell he is. A mutt. he keeps like he knocks some shit over and then he. I gave him some food, so
I couldn't hear him.
I keep hearing I'm like ticky tacky, and I worry that it comes in, but it probably doesn't. So, sorry. Yeah, okay. So, Empire Magazine gave the film 4 out of 5 stars, saying it's certainly a Spike Lee film, but no Spike Lee joint. That must have been like a thing. Like I said, this is one of the things that must have permeated into the zeitgeist, because I don't remember which one of you two, but somebody said that tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's Ryan opened up with that fact, and I understand what they're saying here. I mean, it doesn't seem like your usual Spike Lee movie.
Right.
Empire went on to say, it's no Spike Lee joint. Still, he's delivered a pacey, vigorous, and frequently masterful take on the well-worn genre. Thanks to some slick lens work and a cast on cracking form, Lee proves that, perhaps above all to himself, playing it straight is not always a bad thing. I don't know if I fully agree with the end analysis there, but that's what they said.
I don't know if I agree with it either. I don't think he did play it completely straight, but I also understand what they were trying to say there.
Straight for Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah, straight for Spike Lee.
David Anson of Newsweek commented that as unexpected as some of the plot twists in this film is the fact that this unapologetic genre movie was directed by Spike Lee, who has never sold himself as Mr. Entertainment, but here it is. It's a Spike Lee film that is downright fun.
I agree with that.
That's a fair analysis. Yeah, definitely.
And then Roger Ebert, Chicago's very own, gave it a 2.5 out of 4 stars. He criticized the narrative writing, saying, here is a thriller that's curiously reluctant to get to the payoff, and when it does, we see why. We can't accept the motive and the method of the bank robbery. We can't believe in one character and can't understand another. It must be a Chicago thing.
No, I get it. I mean, I think Ebert is right. There's a fair amount to be criticized here. I don't think he was. I don't know. I think he was a little unfair there, but maybe he's also spot on. What do you think about that?
Well, I was going to say I actually like that element when Denzel's character realizes that Clive Owen is actually stalling. That was a fun moment in the movie for me. It's like finally the detectives are realizing that they're in no hurry to get out of the bank. I enjoyed that little twist in there. So I was actually for it there.
All righty, we're keeping it rolling because we got a lot of stuff in here. These next couple are actually, I think, very fun. These were the most fun, interesting to look up, I believe. So the scene in the coffee shop was completely improvised. And if you listen to the DVD commentary, you can actually hear Spike Lee stating that the line that Denzel Washington gives, at least you can get a cab though. Spike almost had to stop.
Yeah.
He almost ruined that take because he didn't know it was coming and he was laughing so hard.
That's hilarious because that is a pretty damn funny line and scene.
Yeah,
in general.
That is a Spike Lee scene. It has a lot to say. There's a lot going on in that scene.
Well, it opens with the guy that they had just pulled out of the bank asking for his turban, and everybody just not respecting him at all for asking for his turban back. And he's talking about it being, this religious thing. He wants the turban before he starts talking to him, and they just won't have any of it,
Right. Yeah. It was a good scene.
So here's another one that's circling back. We do have answers on why Willem Dafoe is in this. And this speaks very true to experiences that I think at least everyone on this Zoom call has had. I realize that this is maybe a half of the population situation, but these are Spike Lee's words himself. He and Willem Dafoe met in the men's room during the intermission of the play Julius Caesar, in which Denzel Washington appeared in. He was acting in that production. And as they were standing side by side in the men's room, doing who knows what, Spike said, "Hey, we should work together." And Dafoe replied, "Yeah, Spike, we should." That's why Willem Dafoe is in this movie.
Love it.
Wow. That's even better maybe than the story that Somebody who is a former guest once told me about meeting Quentin Tarantino in the men's room.
Yeah, because our former guest was never Quentin Tarantino never was like, hey, be in Inglourious Bastards.
Now, it launched a pretty wild adventure, though, but that's one I'll have to tell when the microphones are off. We'll talk about it later. Sorry,
Nice.
Jawheads.
I just love that. That has to be something generational. I remember when I was in high school, I had a driver's ed teacher who'd always talk to us while we were peeing, and it was so uncomfortable. Maybe it's just like.
Yeah, because
It
then you
seems
have
like
trouble.
a Rye the movie guy thing to do. You know, like
Yeah.
he walks into the bathroom with all the critics right after a long movie, and you just
Yep.
start blabbering to
Yeah,
him.
I'm one of those guys that can talk and still pee, and I know of other people clam up like yourself, Matt K.
Yeah,
It's not about clamming up. I don't care who you are. Give me like 3 minutes. Not even.
Well, it's an exciting movie. I got to talk.
yeah.
Okay. So this one, it's the at the beginning of the movie, the slogan on the thieves' stolen van, in addition to the painter truck, the van offers a clue into the method of the heist as well, because that van says, "We don't leave until the job's done." So he was all about branding. It was very
Right.
subliminal. It's like a Pixar, what do you call it? Like a Pixar cameo.
It's more or less telling you how the heist is going to happen all
Yeah.
along. I
And
love
that it was perfectly planned.
Some more of them.
perfectly
Brilliant.
brilliant.
Both words were tossed around.
The some other little like fun Easter eggs. The pizza that the police gave the robbers was named Sal's. That's obviously a reference to Spike Lee's earlier film, Do the Right Thing.
Nice,
Oh,
nice touch.
that's a good Easter egg. I didn't notice
Yeah,
that.
I didn't notice that in the movie either.
Now you're never going to be able to see anything but. You're going to be thinking about pizza and urinals the next time you watch this film. I
And
hope.
Sal's look like they had a good slice too, and Do the Right Thing.
It's
That'd
New
be good.
York.
Yep.
I miss New York pizza.
Alrighty. And then our last one, the Cartier diamond ring is the real thing. The movie actually borrowed it from Cartier for 3 days during the shooting, and now it is valued at $1.5 million. And just to remind you, this film cost $45 million. So 43 and a half of that was really what it cost outside of this diamond.
Wow.
Well, it's just a rental. You know,
Yeah.
they probably didn't have to pay the full value. Sure, they
Right.
had insurance.
Put some insurance on it and,
Yeah.
and rent it for a little while. But they do make a point of showing the ring a couple of times. It makes sense if they're going to use the real thing. They did zoom in on it a few times.
You see the ring more than you see the pizza, more than you see the painting truck, and more than you see the plan sign. You see,
And
I'll
more
say
than
that
you
much.
see Clive Owen's face.
Why use a real heirloom ring like that? I mean, why not just get a fake prop, you know?
Authenticity, Matt. That's like asking why not get a fake Clive Owen.
hey, and there are some films where maybe they did. Who knows?
I want the real Clive Owen and I want the real ring. I want both.
I mean, Rye the movie guy demands authenticity. No fake movie props.
And he's the kind of appraiser. I've actually seen it. Ryan has one of those little, like, it's not a monocle, but it's also not glasses. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those little, like, magnifying glass things. He appraises things in real life. It's annoying.
Oh, it's called a loop, Phil. It's a
there you go. Apparently, Matt has one too.
I do. Coin collecting.
And then our last one. So there was originally planned to be a sequel to this film. In
Outside
November,
Outside Man? Anybody? No?
unfortunately, no. Well, maybe fortunately, no. No is the point. In November of 2006, it was announced that the sequel to Inside Man was in development. The plot was intended to more or less be the same story,
Like a
told
continuation?
over again. It's to continue after the events of the first one, with Dalton Russell masterminding another robbery, but then still matching wits with NYPD hostage negotiator Keith Frazier. Just keep coming back into each other's lives, apparently.
That's what you do in a sequel.
Exactly. And Spike Lee confirmed that Washington, Owen, and Jodi Foster would all reprise their roles in the sequel. However, in 2011, it was announced that the plans to make Inside Man 2 had been canceled. We all know this because Inside Man 2 never came out. He confirmed this, saying that he was not able to get the funding for it. And this is interesting. I'm glad that Spike Lee brought this up because I was kind of thinking it while I was researching it, and having this quote at the end of the article really, I felt validated. Inside Man, these are his words. Inside Man was my most successful film, but we can't get the sequel made. And one thing Hollywood does well is sequels. It is strange that is the cash cow they decided not to milk. However, at least they did not decide to milk it by Spike Lee's hands, because in 2019, almost 13 years after Spike had announced the original sequel, a straight to DVD sequel called Inside Man Most Wanted was released with none of the original cast and
Outside
none of the
Man
original
would have been
clue.
such a better name for it.
Would it though?
That's a shame.
I mean, listen, anytime you have a sequel and you just add the words Most Wanted, it's never good. It's never good. Even when they do that on a television series, like CSI Miami, Most Wanted, that's just a lazy.
It worked for FBI's.
Shortcut.
That TV show was fine.
Well,
Yeah, that was the original.
I do hate when you see those directed DVDs, and it's happened to quite a few movies where they just use the title of the movie and then throw a bunch of no names in there, direct a DVD, and throw in Most Wanted at the end of it and hope somebody rents it and pays for it.
It is weird that we're seeing like these, because they just had a Shark Boy and Lava Girl one too, which was never supposed to. It's very strange that we're seeing movies from this era come back. It's movies that specifically people don't really remember that well.
Phil, welcome to being old. So what you're experiencing now is people your age becoming power broker adults and pining for the things that they loved in their childhood. It's called nostalgia, buddy. Welcome.
I was gonna say that they didn't do that to Pokemon, but Detective Pikachu came out literally the same year as this. So I have no retort anymore.
Yep. You're officially old, Phil. Welcome to the club, buddy.
Old.
Phil, that was some good crack research there. I mean, this guy's on the case.
I do what I can. I don't mean to brag, but I did go to a private art school, which is not saying that much.
Phil, listen, if I ever happen to walk by a bank in Manhattan and there's smoke coming out the doors and a man sticks a gun in my face and says, get the authorities, I'm going to call Phil Fujiwara to come down there, master detective, to solve the case. Well done.
You should get a lawyer first. It sounds like we know who the case is.
Or maybe a real cop, but I'm going to call you second.
I do love the idea of Phil joining Denzel Washington and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Those three would be a great team.
Oh, I agree. Hell yeah.
I'm optimistic. I use the bathroom a lot, so
you might be one of them in the bathroom.
Hit me up, baby.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see Willem Dafoe in there.
Maybe I'm gonna sprinkle my tinkle and then stay a little longer. Wait for Spike to show up next time.
See, Phil, maybe Ryan's right. You got to start striking up conversations in the bathroom.
Again, while I'm washing my hands.
Ryan, would you do it between stalls or only like between the splash guard at the urinal while standing up?
Both.
Just flashing back to when well, it was so weird. When I was in junior high, we didn't have splash guards at the urinals. It was very strange.
That's never fun.
I think I might have PTSD from my driver's ed teacher, but
PTSD.
Didn't you have the urinals that went all the way to the floor? You know those in early grade school? Where the urinal starts all the way on the floor, so you just can't miss. You know what I mean? But you end up just getting your shoes soaked.
I thought that was so the teachers could use them too. That's why because if they were all kid size, they would be really little.
Right.
That's what
maybe
I thought.
that is
because that's why it's like that at theme parks too. I thought.
Guys, what are we talking about here?
I know. Let's get back.
This is a whole new show now.
Welcome to Urinal Jaw.
Yeah.
They're never going to ask me to do crack research again.
All right. Well, that was all your research on Inside Man, Phil.
Yes.
All right. All we got to do left here, Matt, is put some movie poster quotes on it.
All right. Here's my quote. It's kind of right on the nose, Ryan, but I think this would look nice on a poster. Spike Lee and all-star cast deliver a perfectly planned crime noir. A little higher in my quote, but
yeah. But you're right. It is on the nose. But okay, you just went for it. Explain exactly what it is. I went with something completely different. It's actually a conversation piece, and I went with Spike Lee's Prestige. Now,
I don't think that's a fair comparison at all.
Where I got that from the most was the opening when Clive Owen addresses the camera and he talks about how it's all sort of an illusion of what is about to happen and how he's going to get away with it. Some reason that clicked to me of Christian Bale talking about, you know the movie, The Prestige. What does he call it?
Yeah.
What's the magic trick? The term.
The turn?
The turn?
The three things in the film?
Yeah, the three things.
I think it's the setup, the turn, and the prestige. I know.
Yeah, one of the three. It felt very much like that of Clive Owen explaining how they were going to rob the bank. That's why I went with Spike Lee's Prestige.
All right. I see what you're going for there. I don't think it completely adds up, but I'll give it to you.
How many Jaws, Matt K? This is big. It's a retro review of Inside Man. How many Jaws?
I think Ebert was a little unfair. This is a 3-Jaw movie.
Me and Matt are starting to do too many of these, and we're thinking alike. I'm also 3 Jaws on this as well.
Well, we can start reviewing some other movies that I know you won't like.
Oh, no, I don't want to do that. We don't want to go down that road of Matt K's home videos.
Pick one I won't like. See, here's the difference. You try to pick one that I won't like, and I wind up liking it because, unlike you, I have an open mind.
No, it's more unlike you. I'm picking movies that are actually good. That's all it is. Well, so I'm showing you a film that actually is pretty solid.
That is a pretty good point. I don't want to be on his side. Normally, I am on Matt's side with this kind of thing, but
that was a solid comeback. I don't know if it makes it so, but I'll give you the point. Conceded, Ryan.
All right. Like we said, me and Matt watched this movie on Peacock. It's streaming for free there, but it's also available to rent anywhere you rent movies. If you see Inside Man, shoot us a tweet at CinemaJaw. Let us know what you think, or you can always write us an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. I think that's about it. I think we hit everything we wanted to talk about.
Yeah, dude, that was a nice, beefy little retro review. We got into some tangents. I think that's one for the record books.
Good stuff. As we wrap this up, first and foremost, we got to thank Filmy and Phil, our editor, our producer, our detective.
Oh, always happy to do it for you. Next case you need me to go out on, let me know. I'll get started right away.
We'll get you a little fedora, Phil.
Please don't.
Yes.
Give me like a trench coat and a box of cigarettes, but leave the hat out.
Matt, we also always want to thank the Jawheads, but especially our Patreons.
Yes, thanks to the Patreons. I mean, it's wonderful to hear from you guys. Thank you for supporting the show. It means everything to us. So keep it up. We love you guys. And if you're not a Patreon and you want to get in on this, because we do drop some cool behind the scenes stuff, exclusive interviews, bonus episodes, just go to patreon.com/CinemaJaw. You can join for any level and get access to our secret archives.
And the other way you can support CinemaJaw is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Until next week, I'm Rye the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt K.
And keep on jawing about the movies.